Back in 2013, Mark Fisher Fitness became a multi-seven-figure gym in only its second year. And after 10 years of running a multi-million-dollar gym, I want to share with you the 5 most common mistakes I see gym owners make and 5 takeaways that would help them get better results. My name is Mark Fisher from Biz for Unicorns. If you're watching this video, maybe you want a multi-million-dollar gym. But I'm assuming in practice, for most of you watching this, that's not necessarily the goal. You just want to get a few more clients, you want to see your business growing, you want to increase your personal income, and most of all, you want a peace of mind about where your business is headed and feel like it's sustainable. You want to feel good about how you're impacting your clients and serving your community, and you want the numbers of the business to work. But most gym owners are not experiencing this, and it's my job to diagnose why. So what's going wrong? Why is it that most gym owners are not seeing the results they want? Here are the 5 most common mistakes I see, some of which, in full disclosure, have also gotten in my way. But let me start by telling you a little bit about my story. Understand, when I got to New York in my 20s, I was a professional actor. I was somebody that had just started working out recently after not particularly being someone that felt necessarily very comfortable in gyms. And the main thing to know about me at this point in my life is I was broke. I did not come from a family background of money. I moved to New York. I had $5,000 of personal debt. I had, I think, $40,000 of student loan debt. I had no furniture. I had nothing. I thought if I could make 60 grand a year, even living in Manhattan, I'd be living like a king. It's important to understand that I also moved to New York in 2002, which was the year after September 11th, so it was not a friendly environment to find any kind of job. In fact, I was so broke that I used to get a $10 Papa John's carry-out thin crust pizza because I knew I could eat that for lunch and for dinner. I could spend a buck on a Coca-Cola. Settle down, this was pre-fitness days. So I had a kind of a weird relationship with money, and not only that, I was an artist who was kind of anti-business. I just assumed that business definitionally was about taking advantage of people, and I didn't like it. I thought it all sucked. I started focusing a little bit more on my training business, and I started learning about business, and I found companies like Patagonia and Zappos and Zingerman's, and it finally dawned on me that, whoa, you can have a business that is making money, but is also actually helping people, both the clients and making a cool job. It's a cool place for people to work. And now in my 13th year of gym ownership, I have seen firsthand that this is absolutely possible. So your big overriding idea as we think through this framework of 5 mistakes is this. In a lot of ways, the game of business is methodically, constantly looking for the next constraint and removing and finding what is the one bottleneck that if we fixed it, everything would get better. And as I share these 5 mistakes today, I'd love for you to think through that and try to identify which, if any of these, are the ones that are resonating for you as the thing that is likely preventing you from getting to that next tier of your business, whatever that might be for you. Mistake 1. Thinking you can get an awesome high-level staff that is trustworthy, that performs well, without becoming the person that the person you're looking for is looking for. Listen, you can't get good staff if you are low energy, if you are disorganized, if you're not personally growing, if you're overly emotional up and down, if you don't know how to build relationships. Now, listen, I don't think I've done this perfectly by any means, but at the very least, this has always been on my radar and something I've spent a lot of time thinking about. This has to be a thing you're thinking about consistently because this is the thing that I see is the limiting factor for a lot of people. They'll complain all day long about, oh, I can't find good people or I can't get, nobody wants to work these days. And listen, I don't know the realities of your market. It might be true you've just made some bad decisions or just haven't been lucky. But ultimately, I think if you become the type of quality person the people you're looking for are looking for, you will be way more successful, and you must do this. You must both take, I think, serious study of your own continued personal development to become that person, and also a serious student of the craft of leadership to understand how do I create the type of business and give people what they need, that they like the job, that they're inspired to perform at a high level. Because here's another weird takeaway. The people that a lot of gym owners seem to want that come in, super batteries included, they don't need to be managed, and they're just gonna kick butt without a lot of oversight, will not be willing to work for someone that is not capable of providing lots of foundation oversight for somebody that is less skilled. So your takeaways here are personal development matters, and I'd say self-care matters as a piece of that. Your development and commitment to becoming a great leader is another big piece of this. And I would argue those two are pretty related. Because your third takeaway is your team is the whole game. If you want to get to the next tier, invariably, you will always be limited by the skills and the talents of the people that are willing to work for you. Mistake 2 is being afraid of your numbers. A lot of gym owners out there are very afraid of their numbers. It's very common when we work with people in the Unicorn Society for them to have no clue of what's really going on. At best, a lot of gym owners look at the bank account on the regular basis, but they don't have any sense of projecting what's happening going forward. They don't review their profit and loss to understand what percentages of their revenue is being spent on what kind of expenses. They're not constantly looking to manage the creep of expenses that happen over time by always looking to cut 1% each month, as I recommend. They're also not looking on a daily or weekly basis at the behaviors and the inputs for the marketing and lead generating activity that is necessary if you want to see the business move forward. I'll give myself a C+ here for the first few years of business. And again, that's part of the journey. So that is what it is. I think ultimately I had to personally get more involved in the numbers than I was, because another weird problem I had that a lot of you won't have is I was able to outsource and delegate this pretty early. And in retrospect, although that made sense, and I wouldn't say that was wrong per se, it did stunt some of my growing here. So the takeaway for you is, since you will likely not be able to effectively outsource this, you gotta make friends with your numbers. We're not doing complicated math. This is 5th grade math, and maybe you're saying oh, I'm not good at math. Well, maybe you weren't good at math in 5th grade, but you're an adult now. You're better at a lot of things. You probably weren't a great driver in 5th grade either, and I bet you drive just okay. So we have to make friendly both with tracking behaviors, tracking outcomes on a weekly and sometimes daily basis, certainly monthly basis, so we know how many leads are coming in, we know how many sales conversations are happening, we know what the conversions are, and importantly, we're also looking at the profit and loss. We're looking at, okay, how much money came in last month? What did we spend it on? What are our profit margins? And then we can make some changes if we're not where we need to be. Mistake number 3, trying to please everyone. You want to make everyone happy, and that's not going to happen. I have struggled with this over the years. I think I'm better now than I've been. I still probably would give myself about a B here, maybe B+ if I'm being charitable. I have taken too long to make hard decisions, including but not limiting to firing people, demoting people that were not qualified for the role that I was attempting to have them do, raising our prices, changing or cutting services they're not really serving the business, and do any number of things that I know were gonna make people some combination of disappointed, sad, or worst of all, angry with me. I hate it when people are angry with me. I grew up in a very angry household. It's very triggering. But guess what? I run a business. It doesn't matter. If I want to take care of the humans and the business, I have to be willing to do the things that the organization needs, even if a lot of people disagree. If you can't do this, don't be a leader, because when you're going to be a leader, not everyone's going to like you. That is absolutely not a thing. And the hard part is this, where I know I've gotten my own way, and maybe this resonates with you, is I really meaningfully consider other people's perspectives, and I also take as the foundation of how I look at business that I'm probably wrong about some things. So it has been very hard for me times over the years to separate when I'm getting sometimes very intense feedback or someone's very angry about something, that just because they're loud, it doesn't mean that they are correct. And for me, and this is again, I think highly individual, I've had to learn to really turn down my emotional volume, because those emotions are not always helpful, right? I think emotions are a good but imperfect signifier that something is important. And I think it's important to feel them and acknowledge them. It's very important data, but I don't actually think you can always just follow your emotions. I think there's something said for being in dialogue about what you feel about things. But if you're an overly reactive person, ding, you can really get yourself in trouble if you're always doing what feels like the right thing to do, because overreactive people tend to want to move quickly and things just feel bigger than often they are. I'll say briefly, some of you are probably in the other boat. If you're like an underreactor and things feel less bad, you will have to work hard to not underweight other people's opinions and not be so certain you're right all the time. Your takeaway is be willing to make the hard choices. Now, part of this is I do think you need to actively seek feedback, particularly dissenting feedback from people that think you're wrong, so you can really consider it to improve your thinking. And related to this, on the other side, don't believe your press. The reality is most of the feedback you're gonna hear is gonna be positive. And I'm not saying that's insincere. I'm just saying it's always easier for people to share nice things. So you can expect you're not getting most of the critical feedback you could be getting. So just because all the feedback you get from your clients is how great the service is, I wouldn't be so sure if I were you that your services really are that awesome because, yeah, you're always gonna hear the nice stuff. Make hard choices. Mistake number 4. Thinking word of mouth is enough. It's not. A lot of gym owners just refuse to get serious about marketing and sales. It's kind of like the numbers game. They just put their head in the sand. They don't like it. It feels weird. So they open up a gym, and now there's all sorts of things they don't want to be dealing with. Things like workers' liability, negotiating with the landlord, and marketing and sales is usually pretty high on the list of things that they don't like to do. But guess what? You are a gym owner. You've got to take this seriously. Now, here's the thing. It's interesting. Again, mixed grades for me. When I think back, particularly in the beginning, I will say this. I was very good looking back, and a lot of this was just modeling what I was seeing. I was pretty good at email marketing, even in the very beginning. I was also very good at organic Facebook marketing in a time where that really was still a thing. And then I think we had enough traction that we got through a couple of years once organic Facebook started to go away before we really understood paid digital ads. And that was okay. But ultimately, that's part of why margins started to get thin at various points. Now, one part was not knowing the numbers. We weren't managing our expenses appropriately. But the other part of it was, frankly, we didn't know how to really make it rain because we were just so good at word of mouth. So my hope is you are good at word of mouth. My hope is you are getting referrals. That is an awesome thing if you are. Frankly, it's a warning sign if you're not, but we can't rely on that alone. Once I got really serious about, I think, really understanding what is needed for marketing sales, and I actually started to hire help, which honestly I didn't do until 2019 when the margins were getting really thin. That put the business in a really good place. And a lot of you might have known, we closed a location in 2020, and I'm sad to say, I think that location actually could have done okay had we had time to apply the things that I didn't really start applying literally until the last quarter of 2019. Now, the upside is, don't cry for me, Argentina. One, that lease was too expensive. That was probably never really gonna work the way we wanted anyway. And two, it wasn't really the right neighborhood. But three, we used those same skills to basically rebuild a digital version of the business, which is part of how we weathered the pandemic so well, is because we just put in place a really good system, ran the play, and then it worked. Now, obviously, it was a little bit easier because we had a lot of clients who were also on lockdown that needed that type of solution, that already liked and trusted us. But we leveraged really smart marketing and sales skills, including everything from paid ads to keeping up with the email marketing to really following up with people to getting the sales conversations to leveraging great offers. And that honestly wouldn't have happened nearly as successfully had we not learned the things we needed to learn, which again didn't really start to 2019. So your takeaway here is commit to being world-class at marketing and sales. Because here's my other thought for you that I will challenge you is, you will occasionally see people that have had really outsized success without traditional marketing and sales efforts because the business is so good. And that's like MFF in its early days. But 2 points. One, that freakish outsized success is very rare. And if you were that type of operator and your services were just so good, you would know. That's number one. And number two, that doesn't happen for 20 years, right? If you catch lightning in a bottle, incredible. Leverage it, that's amazing. But I don't know of any business that has made it to 10 years without really dialing in marketing and sales, at least not made it to 10 years and thrived. Mistake number 5. Oh, this one is a toughie. Building a business that locks you into the lifestyle that you currently want without creating the options to allow that to change as what lifestyle you want changes. And that was a lot of words. Let me unpack that for you a little bit. What you'll think you want later is often not what you actually end up wanting. So if you have not had a chance yet, perhaps click on the description in the link below to watch my video, The Truth About Aging Gym Owners. But in practice, the things that you think are awesome if you're single and 28 and working 60 hours at your gym, you might not find to be so awesome if you're 45 and you're working similar hours, but you have a mortgage and a wife and kids that you do not see. So a lot of gym owners build a business around themselves. And listen, that's not wrong. That can be a great thing to do. But in practice, if you're building it on you being the person that's training, say 30 hours per week and just working really intense hours, that can work for a while, but for most of you, it's not gonna be sustainable over time. Now, I'm not saying that this is a completely unsolvable situation, but I think the more you build the business around you, the harder it is to pivot if and when you decide, look, you just don't have the bandwidth to be on the floor that often. I think anyone over the age of probably 35 and certainly over the age of 45 as a gym owner knows what I'm talking about. Your energy levels are gonna change, how you wanna spend your time is gonna change. So it's a real mistake to build the business in a way that doesn't allow for that to evolve as your life evolves. So your takeaways here are, You want to not only do your best to do the visioning exercises, but also understand what you want is gonna change, right? And in order to create optionality, the 3 things that we always recommend you make sure you're focusing on, the things that will really give you freedom, is leadership, which we've already talked about. How effective are you at finding, recruiting, training, developing, managing people that you can leverage that can help the gym be successful without you having to be the one to do it all the time. Second, time management. How good are you at using your time in ways that are both efficient and effective so you're getting the maximum positive output for the amount of time you're putting in? Lastly, wealth building. We need to find some ways to take the cash flow you're making from your gym and build wealth, because cash flow is great to give you income and might even make you rich if you're making enough of it. But if you want wealth, if you want stability, if you want long-term options for you and your family, at some point that cash flow has to turn into things like real estate, investments of some kind, something that is going to really start to give a return so that money starts to grow itself. Again, big topic, a little bit more than we can get into unfortunately in today's video, but hopefully some food for thought. So the very first thing to do here is, as I suggested, think through this framework of 5 items, these 5 common mistakes, and see if you can identify, do any of these resonate as something that you're currently doing? Or one of these the constraint that's preventing your gym to get to the next level? And if so, what might be one thing you could do this week to start to move the ball forward? And if you either are not sure or you are sure but you're not sure what to do, and you'd like some help with that, perhaps we should get on a call and discuss, either with me or someone on the Biz for Unicorns team. If you're a gym owner doing more than $15K in monthly revenue, you are eligible for a totally free gym growth game plan session. Now, the reason we ask for a minimum amount of income is because until you're at $15K per month, you have a marketing and sales problem. That's almost invariably the issue. You know, wiggle up or down a little bit based on your market, but around, if you're under 15K per month, we just aren't focused enough on marketing and sales. And we do have some awesome resources for that as well. But at a certain point, things get a little more complicated because you might be looking at this list and thinking, okay, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, maybe you need some outside feedback. Well, then the gym growth game plan is gonna be perfect for you. Go ahead in the description box below, click on the link, you'll find a time to get a session booked, and you will find this call massively valuable, as we will not only unpack the number 1 bottleneck, but we'll create together a 3-step plan of what you need to do to fix it. Now, you might be asking, why do we do this? Why do we give this away for free? Well, here's the thing. I know that some percentage of you doing this are gonna wanna sign up and work with us in the unicorn side. Maybe not right now, but maybe now, maybe further down the line. So we're happy to do this for you because A, our mission is to help gym owners just like you. And listen, if you have a great call and we never hear from you again, I love you, go with God, that's amazing. And I know it'll come back. I know some percentage of you will say like, okay, this was really valuable. And you'll either sign up soon or next year or sometime in the future. And good news is I'm not going anywhere. I hope you aren't either. So go ahead, click on that link in the description box below. And of course, if you are interested, there's also links if you want to find out more about the Unicorn Society, which is our coaching group exclusively for brick and mortar gym owners. And if now is not the right time, there are all sorts of other free resources. You can find things like our podcast, our Instagram channel, and you can subscribe to this YouTube channel if you wish. That would make me feel good. Awesome, friends. I hope you found this tour through the lessons that I've learned in my years running a multi-million-dollar gym to be valuable for you. And I'll see you in another video soon where I will share with you more actionable tips, psychological frameworks, and of course, philosophy.